everybody, and welcome to this latest episode of The Money Man. Now, the topic for today's video was voted for by you, the subscribers. So thank you so much for engaging with that poll that I put out. It really helps me to tailor make my content and deliver the stuff that is going to be of most interest to you guys. So thank you so much for that. There will be more polls coming out in the near future. So do let me know what you guys think next time I put one of those out. So today we're going to discuss the 500 Azerbaijani Manat note, which was introduced late on last year. And the topic that this banknote surrounds is very sensitive, so I have to tread carefully. But in order to explain why this banknote has come into being, I really have to take you on a very short history lesson, because what this banknote does is it commemorates or celebrates, depending on your perspective, the October to November 2020 war between the nations of Azerbaijan and Armenia. But in order to understand why this conflict came about, we need to have a look at a map of the general region that these two countries sit in. So here you can see we've got a map of Azerbaijan and Armenia, and you can see we've got this contentious region in the middle. Sat in the middle of that contended region is actually the area of Nagorno-Karabakh, and it's that region that is deeply sensitive to both of these two countries, and I'm going to explain why. Now, you'll probably remember that Armenia and Azerbaijan are both former satellite states of the USSR, and when the USSR came crashing down, what you actually had is all these satellite states like Azerbaijan and Georgia and Armenia gaining their independence. Now, before the fall of the USSR, Nagorno-Karabakh was seen as part of Azerbaijan, and that didn't really matter because you could kind of freely travel about because you were still inside the USSR. One of the problems with that region is it's predominantly populated by ethnic Armenians, even though it resided in Azerbaijani territory. Now, when the fall of the Soviet Union happened, the Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh were not happy with the new reality of living in an independent Azerbaijani state. So what they did is they declared independence. Now, this led to a conflict, of course, because Azerbaijan was not going to accept large areas of its territory breaking away. But of course, then Armenia stepped in to support their Armenian brothers, and a wider conflict ensued. Now, Armenia came off better in that conflict. They managed to take over the entirety of the Nagorno-Karabakh region and also many areas that were formerly under the control of Azerbaijan. And that sowed the seeds for the conflict that happened just a couple of years ago. So you can really start to see how this left an open wound, which is still not resolved even today. So what we have is, in 1992 the Declaration of Independence by Nagorno-Karabakh, and we have that first conflict after the fall of the USSR. However, Azerbaijan was never going to admit defeat in the long term, and although a ceasefire was negotiated, no final solution ever came to fruition. So this conflict continued for quite some time, and there were hot moments before the war. So there was an outbreak of hostilities in 2016. There was a very short 4-day war which killed around 700 to 800 people. And also in July of 2020 there were skirmishes and fighting along the border as well. And this eventually led to the war of October-November 2020, which Azerbaijan, in all fairness, had been preparing for quite some time, and they inflicted a decisive defeat on the nation of Armenia. Now, in order to celebrate this fact, they have introduced this 500 Manat note, and here it is. So let's have a look at the obverse of this note, and I'll tell you what's going on here. So of course you can see this is issued by the Central Bank of Azerbaijan, and it is a circulating commemorative note. Now this is a new highest denomination banknote. So this is the highest denomination that you can get of the Azerbaijani Manat, and therefore getting hold of it is a little bit tricky because when you convert it into your own currency, it's going to be expensive anyway. And although they are issued for circulation. I have heard that the Azerbaijani Central Bank have decided to cease issuing them for the moment. I'm not too sure why. Probably because it's a higher denomination and probably not in that common usage. But there we go. But on the front, what you can see is we've got red tulips. Now, the tulip, or sometimes referred to as, we've got poppies and things like that. These red flowers are sometimes referred to as flowers of remembrance. And it's a very common theme around the world. And I would hazard a guess that red tulips are native to the area and have been adopted as a symbol of commemoration of this conflict. And what you've actually got is you've got just above, to the right of the soldiers holding the Azerbaijani flag, you can see some text in red, and that is a rallying cry that says Karabakh is Azerbaijan, and that was the rallying cry that was used throughout the conflict to sort of rally the troops forward and push ahead. So that sort of little quote has been immortalized on this banknote in that red writing just to the right of the Azerbaijani flag. And like I said, you've got the Azerbaijani flag being raised on, high ground by a couple of soldiers, and they've, newly planted it as if to say, look, we've retaken our land. That is their perspective. So that's what you've got on the front. We've also got the 8th of November, which is the Victory Day, as seen in Azerbaijan, when the conflict was basically ended. And also you can see that we've got the Kudafar Bridge as well, which is a historic bridge that runs, I believe, through the area. And behind you can see the mountainous regions. I would assume that is of Nagorno-Karabakh, or it could just be the mountainous regions behind the bridge itself. I'm not quite sure. This is a very wonderful banknote. It's beautiful. I really like the design. Of course, I'm not going to give my personal opinion on the conflict itself because it's got nothing to do with me, to be honest. And I was completely ignorant of the entire situation until the hostilities began. It wouldn't be fair for me to give my own personal opinion. What I would say is that I don't have an opinion either way on either side. I'm just talking about the beauty, the aesthetic beauty of the banknote. Of course, the great shame here is that a lot of people have lost their lives around this conflict, and I don't want to diminish that in any way, and the sadness of that. I'm just talking about the quality of the design here, so it's important that I make that distinction. So if we have a look at the reverse of the banknote, you can see it's quite interesting because the orientation is different. Now you've got a revised map of Azerbaijan on the back, which you can see in grey, and I'm assuming that that new map is incorporating the retaken territories. But you can see that this banknote again is celebrating what is called the Patriotic War in Azerbaijan now. Now what we have on the back, just at the back, you can see an old fortress. Now this is the Askaran fortress. Now I'm not too sure what time period this dates back to, but I would assume that this is showing a historical building that is showing a legitimacy of Azerbaijan's current claims to the region. I think by putting this old fortress on the back, they're saying, hey look, we've got roots that go back in this land a long time, so we are entitled to it. And this is something that is used a lot on very politicized banknotes these days, where they put these historical buildings that were built hundreds of years ago, and it's to show a historical tie to the land, a lineage that goes back. Now the slightly more modern but unusual building that sits to the forefront of the note is really, really important, because that building is the mausoleum of Molla Panavajif. Now, I don't know if I said that correctly, I apologize. Now, you might be thinking, who is that? Who is that guy? Well, he is the former vizier of the Karabakh Khanate, and the Khanate lasted, he was alive during the 18th century. So he was born in 1717 and he died in 1797. And he was a poet and a statesman. Now, this mausoleum sits in the region of Nagorno-Karabakh. And when the Armenian forces took it in 1992, the Azerbaijanis claimed that they did significant damage to this mausoleum. And therefore, what they've done is they've put this on the back of this 500 Manat note to try and show that crimes against Azerbaijani cultural heritage were committed by Armenians when they took the Azerbaijani land in 1992. Now, I cannot speak to the veracity of those claims. I've seen images of the building, it looks badly damaged, and I think their intention is to rebuild and restore it to its former glory. Now, I've just given you the Azerbaijani version of the story, and that's all I can go off because I've looked at the press release for this banknote, but that's why it's on the back of this note. I do apologise to any Armenians out there that think that that is not the case and that is not what happened, but that is the reason they give for putting it on the back of this banknote. So like I said, I have to be careful with this one. So there we go. So there's a lot of detail on the back of this banknote, and also what I like to draw your attention to is the use of the wonderful reflective natures of the security strips, both on the front and the back. I really like that, and the general color palette is very nice. This is a very beautiful banknote. So I tried to get hold of one a couple of weeks ago, and I went down to my local currency dealer, and he only had one, and it was very expensive. It was obviously over face value, and he only had one, and I just thought it's not worth it. So I am trying to procure this at face value, but like I said, I've heard through collectors that the Azerbaijani Central Bank is no longer releasing these out into general circulation. So I'm not sure what is going on. However, I will try my best because I think this could be a really good banknote to collect, especially if they don't continue printing it. So there we go. Bit of a heavy video, this one. I feel a great deal of sadness actually talking about this topic. But there we go. Let me know what you think about this banknote, and I would just like to extend all my condolences to the peoples on all sides of that conflict who suffered and lost their loved ones. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you guys on the next one. It's the Money Man signing out for now. Bye bye.